Responded to those two new studies out with these forecasts. Your own numbers have shifted over time.
They have.
You said 60,000 Americans could die. That's what you said last week. I watched your town hall over the weekend. You said 75, 80 to 100,000 people could die. Which models are you looking at? And what should Americans be prepared for as we reopen the country and head into the fall where we could see a potential second wave?
Well, the upper number was, as you know, 2.2 million people. And then there are some models or charts that showed higher than that. But 2.2 million people. I always felt 60, 65, 70, as horrible as that is. I mean, you're talking about filling up Yankee Stadium with death. So I thought it was horrible. But it's probably going to be somewhat higher than that. There'll be more death. But the virus will pass, with or without a vaccine. And I think we're doing very well in vaccines. But with or without a vaccine, it's going to pass. And we're going to be back to normal. But it's been a rough process, there's no question about it.
Are you still convinced we'll have a vaccine by year's end and 300 million doses, which you had spoken of?
You can never be convinced. When you say, am I convinced? I can say this, we're doing really great. Oxford, Johnson & Johnson, these companies, and I get reports every single day. They're doing really great. Am I convinced? I can't be convinced of anything. But I think that we have a really good shot of having something very, very substantial.
Let me ask you about the tremendous hurt in this country. There are 30 million Americans who are unemployed. You don't need me to tell you that. We're expecting the new unemployment rate this week. There have been forecasts 15, 16, 17%. One of your advisors projected an unemployment rate of 19%. That's nearly 1 in 5 Americans without a job. How bad is this going to get?
Well, that is what it is. And you know, it's very interesting. Even the Democrats aren't blaming me for that. We had to close it up, and we saved millions of lives, and we did the right thing. Now we're getting back to work. The third quarter, I think, is going to be, I call it a transition quarter. A lot of people, you see it. I tell you what, I got on the plane today. There was such spirit. People are starting to feel. We land in Arizona. I leave from D.C. I get calls from everybody all over the country. I just spoke to the governor of Florida. Florida is really active.
I think a lot of people share that hope, Mr. President, but the reality for so many of the families that we've reported on is they can't afford to wait for the next quarter. They're just trying to get through next week or the next dinner they put on the table.
Well, we've done a lot for that. We've done our small business, as you know, our PPP, paycheck, if you want to call it that, where small businesses are given billions of dollars so that they can take care of their employees. We've done a lot of other. Look, we've done $2 trillion, and it's actually close to 3 if you really add it up, but $2 trillion has been approved, and we'll probably do more. It's a stimulus. It's to keep people employed, to keep small businesses open.
Let me ask you, because people will look back, and we have an election 6 months from now. They're going to look back to the beginning of this, and they're going to wonder what you knew and when you knew it. And I have no interest in going back over everything you said, but there was one thing you said that perhaps you could clarify. You said this was at the end of February. A full month had gone by. You'd stopped travel from China. And you said of the cases here in the U.S., when you have 15 people and when the 15 within a couple of days is going to go down to 0, that's a pretty good job we've done. Help me understand that moment. Did you really think we were going to have 15 cases in the U.S.?
So let me, I said you would say worse than that. I said one person one time. And it's true. There was a time when we had one person in this country. We knew about it. We worked on it, but we had one person. It mushroomed. The 15 people mushroomed. Other people were coming in also from Europe. Don't forget.
But we're at more than 1 million cases now.
But don't forget, in January, okay, let's talk about cases. You know why you're at 1 million cases? Because we have more testing than anybody else. If we tested as much as these countries down here, okay, who don't do very much testing at all, look at Japan, very little testing. They're at the bottom of the rung. Look at South Korea, gets so much publicity. The president of South Korea is a friend of mine. President Moon, he called up, he said, what you're doing with testing is amazing. If I tested this number of people instead of this number of people, I'd have far fewer. If I see this line goes all the way up, over 7 million tests. If I tested down here at 1 million tests, I would have a lot fewer cases too.
I understand the argument you're making.
But look at your question.
No, but you understand there's a huge disparity between 15 and more than 1 million cases. what was it? An intelligence failure? Where was the breakdown that we didn't know the scope of this?
Look, let me tell you this. I closed the border, if you want to use that term. I banned people from coming into China. There were approximately 40,000 Americans. If you were in my position, you would let them come in. You could ask Ron DeSantis, great governor of Florida. Those people went through quarantine, they went through tests, they went through everything, but they were American citizens. I had to let them come back in. But I came in, and what I did is I said against many people, including Anthony Fauci, who I like very much, including Deborah, who I like very much, the doctors, and many other people. They said, don't ban China, it's going to blow over. And they said this at the end of February. Now, at the same time, I want to be optimistic. I don't want to be Mr. Gloom and Doom. It's a very bad subject. I'm not looking to tell the American people, when nobody really knows what's happening yet, oh, this is going to be so tragic. I want to be, aside from everything else, and I'm going to use a term, and some people love it, and some people hate it, but I love it. I want to be a cheerleader for our country.
When we come back.